think a new team has arrived in the AFC West, and their name is the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah.
Herbert stops, launches deep. Jalen Guyton, he's got it!
Herbert fires open, making the grab. Mike Williams down the sideline. On the 17-yard line, look out again. Carr, intercepted.
And we're back with another episode of the Shock Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Lawrence. You can find me at LAC Masterbolt, Zach Alfers. Zach Alfers, we brought on a guest today, and I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce our guest. Why don't you go and give it up for Mr. Tim Williams.
Yeah, special performances, I think, require special guests. So I brought on my buddy Tim Williams. We are working together with the Sacramento River Cats, but Tim's a former collegiate football player. I know he's done some sports writing also in the past. If there's anything I'm forgetting, Tim, definitely let our listeners know. But I'll save the surprise for you and let you tell why we brought you on today.
Yeah, man, I appreciate y'all for having me. Former college athlete, I wouldn't say former, but personal trainer. Now doing sales at the River Cats. That's how I met Zach. And then now I'm on the pod to talk about some Kelley.
So tell us a little bit about Josh Kelley, how you met him, and kind of a little bit about you guys' relationship.
Yeah, so I met him my second year at Davis, his first. He a year behind me. And really we had met in the gym like before the season had started. Like I guess he was getting in some extra work. And I knew I didn't see him before, so we introduced ourselves to each other. Really, from there, we kind of figured out that one of his friends was also somebody else I had just met, and then we made that connection, and then really it took off from there. But at that time, you know, after meeting him in the gym, it's like, okay, he played football, so I wanted to check him out. Freshman year, he had like averaged like 5 yards a carry. That was as a freshman too. So like that was always big. And then really the relationship with like my housemate and him is really what kept us connected. Like that's really like his guy. That's really like his homie. But you know, we stayed in contact from there. You know, now we good friends.
And you guys still talk to this day?
Yeah, like I actually seen him in the summer, like right before camp. So and when I seen him, he looked like he had gained a few pounds, but apparently he put on a few more. Man. Yeah, apparently he put on a few more. So he looked real huge now. So yeah, chill with him for a little bit, you know, before camp started, before he really got into that grind. And yeah, just rooting him on as much as possible.
I got to ask you, man. So you played with them collegiately at UC Davis, right? How was he like as a freshman and as a sophomore? And how much have you seen like that growth from him going from UC Davis to UCLA and into the NFL, obviously? You know, what do you think like made him gave him that drive? And that's a huge kind of come up coming from a UC school up to the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, really, I couldn't even like speak to what drives him per se, outside of him being like a God-fearing man. He's really a man of strong faith. So I think he puts all of his faith into God and in his abilities. He thanks God for his abilities. I think that's probably like the biggest thing that might drive him. But like he always been a hard worker. I remember. Like I said, I met him at the gym getting in extra work. And then at the time he had decided that he was getting ready to transfer from Davis to UCLA. I had seen him in the gym again and we talked about it then. And he was like, yeah, bro, Like I gotta put in extra work on top of the work that I'm already doing, plus eating different. Like he put himself on that schedule before he transferred to get him ready to transfer. So it's always been in him, I would say. That's probably got to be something from a young age outside of his faith.
He always smile like that back.
Yeah, he do.
Giving all that.
He do.
The guy's always smiling. I swear, he never looks upset or anything. He's constantly got this huge grin on his face.
Yeah, it's a constant glow. He always excited, wanting to be around, want to talk to you, make sure you're doing good. He want to know how everything going with you. So really, just a good guy. I think that's why people like him so much. Like you see him as a player, you see what he could do. It's like, okay, great. But then when you meet him as a person, it's like even better. Like that's what really keep you.
What do you think's like clicking this year for him that kind of didn't click in the past? I feel like he had a kind of a really good start in the NFL, the first like 2 or 3 games. And then it seemed he had like the one fumble. And from that, like the confidence kind of got sapped a little bit, making little mistakes here and there. Like, what do you think is changing his mindset this season? Because he looks like a totally different player than he has the last 2 seasons.
If I had to guess, I would say he learned how to like not take it personally. He learned that the league is a business, and in the business you got to do your job. And I think once he started attacking it with that mindset and really being proactive, making sure he get better at special teams instead of just running back, I think that's what really helped him, I would say.
I think he just looks a lot smarter right now. Like he looks confident. Like
yeah,
he's listening to in his interview. He seems way more confident this year.
Yeah, no, like the confidence is definitely there. You could just see it. Like he playing. When he play free. He not thinking about what he needs to do. It's just football now. Like if he in the backyard again. So I think now that he playing free, that's really going to take him to that next level. All we need now is more opportunity.
Well, let's talk about that opportunity. The decisiveness is so much better this year over the first couple of years. And he had a career game this last Sunday. Let's see, 10 carries on the ground, 49 yards. He had a big touchdown. Also caught both of his targets for 33 yards in the passing game. This kind of is just the tip of the iceberg, the tip of what we're expecting from him. So just as as a former teammate of his, what are you expecting from him for the remainder of this season?
Really, I think if we could be around 10 to 12 touches per game, passing and catching, I think you'll see a lot more production. And he's already been like the most efficient in his small carries. And I think giving him close to that 10 to 12 touches, making sure he is like the actual spell for Eck, I think that's taking it to the next level in itself.
Daniel Popper actually told Joe Lombardi in one of the interviews that he's been the most efficient runner. And it actually kind of, I think, led to him getting the 10 carries this week. Like, okay, you've been the most efficient. Let's go and see what you can do with it. And he goes and he has a pretty decent game. He's not getting stopped in the backfield. He's being really decisive. And I feel like we've always known that he's been a north to south runner. I feel like he didn't always know that kind of early in his career. And now he just looks a lot more decisive. He's getting north and south. He's bouncing off tackles. He's never been like a twitchy, he's never been like a person that's going to juke you out of your shoes or anything like that. And I feel like he understands his identity now as a runner. Like he's a downhill, drop the shoulder, go and pick up the hard yards, bounce off tackles. And I think that's been like the biggest strength to him this season. I feel like he understands who he is as a runner, where I feel like that was something that he kind of struggled with that identity. Like, who am I? What's my role on this team? And how do I, bring the best of what I'm able to do to this team? You agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I think I think that's why he put on that size. And I think you could see it in his play now, because now he's going to meet contact. Like even in pass protection, he's not waiting for the blocker to come to him. He's going to make that initial
looks like he's
contact.
Having fun with it too.
Yes. So I think he understands that he will have success when he's pushing the envelope and going through people as to trying to accept him coming in.
And that was a big thing coming into this season, was finding a legitimate running back to to spell Eckler so he doesn't have to do it all himself. Now, there's been a lot of kind of jockeying for that position. Kelley had a phenomenal offseason. I know me and you, Tyler, and me and you, Tim, have talked about it as well. We thought he was the clear front runner. They signed Sony Michel late in the offseason. He kind of was really that first guy to get those second touches. You got Isaiah Spiller also waiting in the background. But if you had a chance to speak to the Chargers coaching staff, what do you think makes Kelley the best running back to spell Eckler in those situations?
I feel like he's shown you all camp. Like he was probably the best back all camp. You know, the work that you wanted him to do, you've seen him do. When he gets the opportunities in game, he's producing in game. And that's not just running the ball or catching the ball. That's in pass protection. That's in special teams. So to me, I feel like it just comes down to really trusting them with it. I think when they brought in Sony, it was like, okay, well, I know he had a running back competition. Maybe I'm still not comfortable with the depth in the room. So let's bring somebody in. He's been in the system. Let's bring somebody in, which is fine. But when you got a guy that's younger, doing the same things, and then if not better, I think it's time to just go with him.
And I think they did that. They only gave Sony Michel 1 carry, 0 yards. So like they gave Josh the opportunities, and I feel like he played the way that he needed to kind of hold on to that position. As a matter of fact, I don't think our 4th round draft pick, Isaiah Spiller, has even like dressed most of these games. So I feel like they're comfortable with Josh Kelley. I feel like he's jumped Sony Michel on the depth chart. I see him getting these 8, 10, 12 touches a game because I just think that he deserves them. Like Austin Eckler had an outstanding game, 16 carries, 173 yards. He had the 1 touchdown. He took that 170-yard long run. Mm-hmm. But Kelley's been, I think, a little more consistent from play to play to play, which is so valuable, especially when you're trying to pick up those first downs, trying to get some of these long drives moving, take some time off the clock. And he's protected the ball, which was another issue he's had at the beginning of his career. I think that you got to keep rolling with Kelley. You have to. You need that consistency and that back that can kind of wear down the defense. And he's finally reliable at doing that, which is so huge. Just be reliable, do your job, and you'll get the carries. Those things will come.
And that's what I was about to say. I think it's still early. It's a long season, but I think he definitely is showing that he's reliable. Like you could call his number when it's time, and he won't let you down. So I think he can only build on that. Obviously, like this is like his opening game. So he showed well in his opening game, and hopefully he get the same opportunities going forward.
And so we've been very positive. I know we are all huge fans, but what do you think are maybe some of the weaknesses of his game that maybe he can add to or just kind of fine tune to force the coaching staff's hand to play him? Because I don't think he's given us any reason to not see 10 plus touches a game.
I mean, it's hard to say at this point. Like just watching film, you will really have to probably dive deep to see like maybe he didn't do this or didn't do that. But at a surface level, it looked like he can give you everything. He can run, he could catch, he could pass block, he can play special teams. I know Tyler, you talked about that quick twitch. He doesn't really have that quick twitch, but
I think his issue is in space, which is like making guys miss out in space, right? Mm-hmm. I think that he's got enough wiggle, and I think you overcome that with identity. Like, though, if you're not the guy who's twitchy, a guy who's able to cut against the grain, then you better be really good at what your specialty is, which is getting north and south. Now that he's doing that, but like in terms of like throwing him some screens and letting him get out in space, like that's not his game. And I think that's a really hard thing to develop, right? Is how do you develop that quick twitch? You can do little things, you can do like ladders and stuff like that, but in terms of just having the instincts of like feeling where the run is going and then making that quick decision, is something that he just doesn't have that specific aspect, but that's fine because that's not who he is.
I still think even if you did get him in space, like in the screen games where you got linemen out in front of you, he wouldn't even need quick twitch in that. Right at that point, you just following blockers now.
I'm just talking about like little dump offs, and you have to make one man miss, and you got open field, and you make that one man miss.
Yeah,
I feel like he's just gonna be like the guy, like, look, I'm lower the shoulder and I'm gonna pick up the extra yards, which is fine. That works in the NFL. If that's your role, then that's your role. But in terms of like being an Austin Eckler or even like a Justin Jackson, a guy who, just has that dead leg, like there's no dead leg. It's all heavy shoulder. And that's fine. That's who you are. That's who you are.
I do think we are underestimating the speed. Like he gained weight, but he still has that speed. So when he does get some space and he actually is open up and run, we'll be able to see him getting away from defenders like we did in college. I feel like we haven't been able to see a lot of that yet. But when those opportunities come, I think we'll start to see him pop a few more longer runs.
Yeah, I think that also like the blocking up front needs to get better. Matt Filer, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the game. I'm not sure if you're a Charger fan or not. I know you're a Josh Kelley fan because, you're a Josh Kelley fan. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of the issues have been kind of up front, especially at left guard. Matt Filer, again, like I did a lot of film study. He's just not – I know that, we had 238 yards rushing on the ground. Most of that was on one play by Austin Eckler. But I think you need the blocking up front for Kelley and Eckler in this whole run game to just be consistent from week to week. It looks great on the stat sheet, 238 yards rushing, but when you realize, a third of those yards came on one play, that's not consistent. I still saw some consistency issues on Sunday. I don't know if you wanted to stay on for the whole episode. You had a chance to watch the game at all. It's up to you, but I'd like to keep you on and get your kind of thoughts on the rest of the team.
Yeah, I didn't watch the whole game. I think I caught on the third quarter. I got in the third quarter. I was able to watch from there. But I as far as film, I wouldn't be able to dive deep into film.
Okay, then that's totally cool. We could talk about that a little bit. But Zach, what do you think about Austin Eckler's big game, big day? He also got caught from behind on that. So
I know
you gotta talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that one's eating him because he wants the competitor in him wanted to finish that one off. But you look at the whole game as a whole, the dude was eating. He was getting it done. A 71-yard run, I'll take that every day. You get us into the red zone.
4 yards short.
4 yards short, and I'm pretty sure we settled for a field goal that one too. I think it was 3 really bad plays at the goal line. I don't really like that the end of that run, but I thought Eckler played phenomenal. I'm a big Eckler fan week in and week out. We were talking about just a big part of this game was going to be to flip the script. We knew the Browns were going to run the football. We knew they were going to be effective with it. A way to keep us in the game was to establish our run, which has been super inconsistent all game,
non-existent,
or all
it hasn't
year.
Been inconsistent. It's been non-existent.
I thought it was a great game from Eckler, and I hope because it's a build off of last week, which was his best game up to that point, and now he has a phenomenal game here, a career high game as far as yardage total, and now you're just going to continue to build off of that. You get a far less talented defense upcoming with the Broncos. This is a builder game. I know Austin Eckler wants a couple touchdowns moving forward. I thought Eckler played phenomenal.
I thought Eckler had a really good game. And the other thing we have to talk about, Austin Eckler had 173 yards rushing. Nick Chubb had 134. So our number RB1 outrushed their RB1. Joshua Kelley, 49 yards. Kareem Hunt, 47 yards. Our number 2 outrushed their number 2. So like that right off the bat, this is
on less carries from each. So much
on
more
less carries from each. But also like the thing that's important about that is this is the strength of the Cleveland Browns offense is their offensive line and their run game. And if you can produce better than what they're doing, it's really going to be really hard to lose that kind of game. And we know that Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are probably the best duo in the NFL. They have the best offensive line. And I think it's such a huge compliment to this running back room, the Chargers running back room, to be able to outperform the team that is the best at what they do. Right? Like, that's huge. Like, Nick Chubb is super fun to watch. Maybe not watching him play against your team, but he is super fun to watch. And both those backs, when you're able to be better than at their own game, I mean, that's a recipe for success if there ever was one, right?
So I got a question. Do you feel like the production we got in the run game came because they went into the game wanting to run the ball, or was it because of Cleveland Browns' run defense?
I think it's a little bit of both. I still think that the Chargers' rushing game was big play based, right? Like, it wasn't consistent. There's still a lot of tackles right at the line of scrimmage, and with the exception of I would say like 5 chunk plays that came out of that, it really wasn't great on the offensive line. It was really great at Eckler kind of getting the defense to kind of move where he wanted them to move and then making that cut. I still think that the Browns defense is relatively good, especially when you have some of the young talent that they have back there. I'm talking about Sione Takitaki. I'm talking about Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Like, they got some really good players there. I think that a lot of the motion that we did, a lot of the misdirection we did really worked in our favor. But I don't think that we just overpowered the Browns defense by any means. And I don't know if you got that from that, but I don't think we just beat them down with our offensive line just outperforming and kind of manhandling their defensive line. I really think it was just a couple of breaks. Like, we got lucky on a couple of those runs. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I want to get Zach's thoughts, and then I can give mine.
I think we're going into it like we were talking about. The Chargers' run game has not been nearly as where we need it to be to go where we want to go. And so I think each week it is a point of emphasis to get the game going somehow. And I think you're right, but those big plays spark momentum. They get guys wanting to block, wanting to hold on for an extra second to spark that big run. And so I think it was planned to lean on the running game a little more. I don't think we were expecting this level of efficiency or the 4 or 5 splash plays that we're talking about here.
All right, so I feel like the splash plays could be just a product of you leaning more into the run game. I think with the first few games, you were trying to establish a run, but some of them games you were down, so you had to throw. Like that Jags game, you were down. You're probably not going to establish a run in that game. You got to throw. So I think if the offense could make it a thing to be more balanced going forward, maybe we do see that run game start to get a little bit more consistent, like just based off this one game alone.
We did pass 34 attempts. We ran 34 times. So that worked in our favor. And even in this game where we got down 14-0 pretty quick. So if you're able to establish that run, it makes you more multiple on the offensive side of the ball, because now you're a threat to run the ball, which opens up so much in the passing game, which was huge for the Chargers this week. Justin Herbert didn't have the greatest game, 228 yards, but 22 of 34. We're used to Herbert having 40 attempts a game and passing for over 300 yards. But when you are a threat on the ground, it makes you more efficient through the passing game. And that's been huge for us this last week. I don't love some of the 4th down decisions. We'll talk about those in a bit. Specifically the 4th down play calling. I kind of wish we would have ran the ball in some of those situations. But we can get in that in a little bit. Mike Williams finally had a big game. Again, 10 receptions, 134 yards. Almost had one like the greatest touchdowns of the year. I don't know what this heel toe tap thing doesn't make sense to me. Like, if you're going out of bounds and you get the toe tap, they'll give it to you, but you step, you're on your toes and then you step back out of bounds like you're in. Like, what? That is a dumb rule. What do you think about Mike Williams' game on Sunday, Tim?
Yes, I got him in fantasy, so I loved it. Right? I loved it.
Yeah.
So that is a lot of the reason why I watch the Chargers so much. One is because Kelley, and the other two would be because my other housemate is a Chargers fan, and then 3 would be because of fantasy. So I think he looked good. I think with Keenan being out, like he doing what he needs to do with the targets coming at him. I think keeping that offense balanced might even open it up a little bit more for him, especially on some play action plays where you'd be able to get him one-on-one down the field. So to get him with more opportunities where he can make those big plays. But from everything we've been seeing from him, I think I've been liking.
Zach.
Yeah.
It's already been about 25 minutes, so I kind of want to start talking a little bit about the defense and get on to the next game. But Derwin James had 14 total tackles. Drew Tranquill had some tackles in the backfield, but you also have some players that are kind of underperforming. J.C. Jackson, getting beat on 2 plays that come straight to my mind. The touchdown on Amari Cooper, and then one of the first slants, right? What is going on? What is going on with J.C. Jackson, and how do we get him moving? What is going on with that?
Yeah, that one's baffling to me. So I feel like, we could kind of speculate all we want. I think that's a personal J.C. Jackson question. No one really knows what's going on with that guy because we've never seen, what's to call it, lack of production. This guy is who, as soon as he's stepped in the league, has just been magneting his hands, attracting the football, breaking passes up left and right. I want to say, I think it's slightly mental, slightly an adjustment period, slightly also partially because he hadn't had a complete off season, kind of got banged up right there towards the end, didn't get any preseason action. So I think you guys seeing a guy who's experiencing a lot of new, trying to regain the all-pro form that we've came accustomed to knowing. I'm sure he's not impressed with the production that he's had in the couple games that we've seen him. I think that's going to something that is going to work itself out because he's just way too talented to be completely whiffing on stuff like that. It's something you would expect from a second, third year player, not a guy who's been dominant since he stepped in the league like Jason Jackson has.
And then the last thing I kind of want to talk about, touching on the defense, Alohi Gilman got an opportunity to play this game in place of Nasir Adderley. Really jumped him on the depth chart and kind of had the game sealing play of the game. When he got that interception in the end zone, huge. Completely changed the landscape of the game. So I really like that Alohi Gilman came through and with that opportunity, you got to shine. And I feel like he shined in the right moment, which is so important. So hats off to Alohi Gilman. The last thing you got to talk about, though, is the fourth down decision-making by Brandon Staley. Players are already on their way to I know Keenan Allen was what are we doing on Twitter? Every coach in the NFL, every fan in the NFL is what are we doing? Why are we not playing defense? So Tim, before we let you go, I kind of want to get your thoughts on Brandon Staley's aggressiveness, somebody who's kind of outside. I know you're not a Chargers fan in particular, but you've seen kind of how the Charger games have gone, 4th and Stady, everybody knows about it. I kind of want to get the thoughts from somebody who's not a Chargers fan, kind of on the outside looking in. And do you like the aggressiveness? Do you like Brandon Staley? And kind of what are your thoughts of Brandon Staley?
So with the offense and the quarterback that he has, I do like the aggressiveness, and I think he talks about having a model that he follows when it comes to 4th downs. It's like a model and statistics that he follow on certain 4th downs that he decided that he want to go on. Yeah. So based off of that, I can understand the reasoning why he's being so aggressive. I think the ones that I don't like are the ones where you're on your own 30 and you want to go for it. Bro, just punt that.
Yeah. Right. Play some
as far as this past game, the very last one, I'm like everybody else. What are you doing? Why not just punt it? And so I think it was less than 30 seconds left, or less than a minute left at least.
Yeah, it
Just
was
punt the
toward the end
ball.
of the game. All you got to do is play defense. It's Jacoby Brissett, right?
You have to drive a whole
They don't have
field.
any timeouts. Like, what are we doing?
Right. I just think that was just a mistake on his end, and luckily it paid off. Still got the win, but I doubt he'd do something like that again if it came up.
I don't know. There's been a couple
He's
times
gonna do it
though,
again.
he's
It's his
kinda
thing.
done things like that. He doesn't.
Into the game where it's like the decision that you should make, I feel like he eventually started taking it. So I think even though like the season isn't like lost, you still winning games, he might start getting close to that hot seat talk.
Yeah,
Especially
I
with
think
Sean
that you
Payton
make
out
decisions
there.
like that.
Yeah.
That's where some of the captains have to come and be like, "Yo, coach, no, we're not doing that."
It's like, coach, just play it honest, put trust in the defense. Because the defense could take that anyway. Oh, you don't trust us to win the game? You don't know how that affect the team.
I appreciate your thoughts, Tim. Zach, I'm gonna let you give the kind of outro for Tim and kind of say goodbye to our friend of the pod. But I did want to say thank you for coming on, and that was some great insights. All Joshua Kelley, Brandon Staley, everything you're talking about, Mike Williams, fantasy, all of that. So I appreciate that, man.
Thank you both for having me, man.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. I thought the insight was great, and definitely like to have you back on when we see that another big Josh Kelley game. Definitely want to get you back on here for a future episode. So,
What
thanks
team
again.
are you a fan of?
New Orleans.
New Orleans. We do not play New Orleans this year. We had you guys in preseason. We play New Orleans. We'll bring you back on.
You got a lot of
conversation.
old
We'll be
New
telling
Orleans
you about
coaching staff
yourself.
too, so it's an extension of the family.
Hey, we'll be there. I appreciate you, man.
All right, thank y'all.
Thanks a lot, man. Take it easy.
All right, so let's talk about the Denver Broncos. Great conversation, by the way. I'm glad we brought him on. That was kind of cool to get some insight on Joshua Kelley a little bit there.
Yeah, he obviously knows ball.
Yeah, he does.
He knows what he's talking about. He's always one of the first people once I get into the office, when I have any type of news, NFL, especially Charger related, especially Kelley related, that I come to. He actually was the one who showed me Popper's Popper's tweet about the Lombardi thing. So obviously very invested, very knowledgeable. Really glad to have had him on.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So let's talk about the Denver Broncos. Denver is not who we thought they were.
They're not who we thought they were.
They look like a bad team. I'm not going to lie. Defensively, they look great. Right now, they've only allowed 80 points. That's tied for fourth least among all defenses. But offensively, with Russell Wilson, nobody wants Russ to cook. Nobody likes the way the food smells. Nobody likes how it tastes. Nobody even is looking at it and they're going, I'm not going to touch that.
Not even his superstar wife. I mean, nobody's loving Russ's cooking right now. It's
nobody's loving what he is cooking up right now. His restaurant's about to go out of business.
I want to say it's Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark said something about it, tweeting like Russ is putting raisins in his macaroni salad. Like, just what are we doing, dude?
The Broncos have scored 75 total points. That's 31st worst. There's only one team who's done worse, and I couldn't tell you who it was. They're struggling to put points on the board. And then Russ is just the joke of the National Football League right now. If you look at all the active players in the NFL right now, like he's the only guy who's practicing coming out of the tunnel, trying to, how is he going to come out of the tunnel? I'm going to raise my hands, right? And he sits here and he pretends to pray after a touchdown. And he's not doing anything that's like game related. Like he's acting, and he's become the joke of the entire NFL. Kyle Brand had a really, really funny, if you ever go and listen to Good Morning Football podcast, he does something kind of funny about Russell Wilson. Just the guy turned into like one of the most likable players in the entire NFL to one of the hated because he's just so fake right now. Like, what is going on with Russell Wilson? they're paying him $230 million to, I don't know. Like it's kind of weird. It's like Antonio Brown-ish. Like
It's
esque.
a different type because at least Antonio Brown is crazy. It seems like Russ is it's just so produced. It's so phony. It's just not
It's
genuine.
fake.
It's absolutely fake. I was just going through fake synonyms, but it absolutely is. I mean, and I don't know. I get so tired of him because the personality is just annoying to me. And now you don't have the play to back it up. So, and what about the very, very, sad after the games, let's ride. Like he's sad now. And he's like, it's like he's in like a pouting mode. Like, I don't know. Something's not right
He's
with him.
married to Sierra. Like his wife is like beautiful. Like he has nothing to be sad about, like at all.
No. I think what he should be sad about is the Pete Carroll marriage has broke up, and I don't know if it's just that the Broncos are just not as good as they
And
were,
Geno Smith is killing it.
You got to bring that into the equation
We
as
have
well.
to talk about Geno Smith. Like Russell Wilson, everybody likes Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson was like the 3rd round draft pick who takes his team to 2 back-to-back Super Bowls, wins 1, has the play calling issue. That's what everybody called it, right? Like Pete Carroll's like throwing it a slant for the win in the Super Bowl when you've got one of the best goal line backs in the history of the National Football League with Marshawn Lynch. And then like nobody blamed Russell Wilson for that. Everybody blamed Pete Carroll for the play call. And then we start talking about how Russell Wilson had this terrible offensive line his entire tenure, right? And he just needs the right situation. And it seemed like the Broncos was the right situation. But then as soon as he leaves, he becomes the most fake player in the National Football League. And nobody likes him anymore. Like, I think fans are bigger fans of Deshaun Watson at this point than they are of Russell Wilson, which is insane.
At least,
and I said that just came out of my mouth.
I mean, I don't think I may most likely maybe like in like the home team's fan bases. I don't know. Are we even going to get Russ this week? I thought he's a little banged up with like a torn lat.
He is a little banged up, but he is expected to play. And I don't want to talk about Brett Rypien for this podcast. Like, I already feel like this game is such a pushover. I think this is going to be an easy win. And oh, by the way, you're going to be coming to this game.
Yes.
So you will be here. You'll be going to SoFi Stadium for your second game. I'll be taking you in the brand new seats, which will be cool. You'll get to watch that from kind of a different angle than you did last year. So I'm super stoked to bring you to this game. But like, we have to talk about Russell Wilson because he's not playing well. They're paying him a lot of money. And if you do not get beat by their defense, you're not worried about the offense, which was like a threat in the preseason. Like people were talking about Javonte Williams. He's on IR, out for the year. They were talking about, I think Garrett Bowles is out for the year as well, right? Like their left tackle ended up getting hurt.
Yeah.
So like part of their issues are injury related. Part of their issues is an identity crisis. Part of their issues is Melvin Gordon handing fumbles.
He likes to do that. No Justin Simmons.
Justin Simmons was just activated from IR, so he has a chance to play. Greg Dulcich was just activated from IR, so he has a chance to play. But I think they lost Randy Gregory for the year, and I still think that their injury issues are like terrible. I think they have the second most players on IR through 5 weeks of the NFL season.
Yeah, they're banged up, but that's no excuse. That's no excuse. That's why you build a complete team. It's what we thought the Broncos were going to be. We thought they were going to be a lot deeper than this. Injuries aren't fun, but it is part of the game. You need to find a way to respond. You need to find a way to find a new normal. They have not found their new normal. They look awful. It will be nothing less than a disappointment if we don't win by 3 scores against this team.
The Broncos currently have 12 players on injured reserve, which is taking up 32% of their cap space. That's insane. That's a lot of money to be on IR. And then we talk about Melvin Gordon. Like, they have had trouble holding on to the ball. Javonte Williams was out snapping Melvin Gordon by a wide margin. And I feel like this is Melvin Gordon's like last opportunity to have like a legit shot as a true RB1, and it's his for the season. And then you got their wide receivers I don't think that they have a bad offense by any means. I feel like they have a really, really talented offense, even with some of the injuries that they're dealing with. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, all three of those guys are healthy. That's a pretty strong trio, a young developmental trio. But they got to get the quarterback situation to get figured out, or it's just not going to work for them. On the offensive line, they have Calvin Anderson starting at left tackle, Cameron Fleming at right tackle. So they're out their number 1 and number 2 offensive tackles. And then you've got Dalton Reisner, Lloyd Cushenberry, Quinn Meaners. Quinn Meaners is dealing with some injuries himself. One of those players that's kind of a fringe start if he's available. The Broncos have played in like 3 of 5 primetime games, this being a 4th. And I feel like this is their last one because any other team is going to get flexed out of that. Like they have been god awful at putting points on the board, which is what people want to see. Teams want to see teams score points, and it's just not happening in Denver.
And I mean, this is going to be a lot of fun just to be there, to experience it live. But when we picked this game out preseason, this was a game, when we did our season, like kind of
we had this circled prediction on the schedule. Like,
huge
this is going to be a fun game
it's going to be a big wild playoff game, a big game with a lot of, hype, 2 great quarterbacks, 2 great defenses, and it just not living up to the billing. Still, what a better game for a team who has yet to put a complete game together. Go out there, dominate, establish some rhythm, get some bodies back here soon as we approach the middle of the season towards our bye. This is a great pick-me-up game, and you can't take them for granted. It's still the NFL. I don't care who they roll out there at quarterback. You got to take care of 4 complete quarters, and don't even give these guys a breath of fresh air from kickoff till the final whistle.
Going over to their defensive side of the ball, here's an interesting stat for you. Josie Jewell is a linebacker that I think he tore his like MCL or ACL like week 1 of last year. He is still recovering from that. He ended up playing 3 games this season, the last 3 games, and he is leading the team in tackles already with other people playing 5 games. So like he's a difference maker. He's a guy that flies all over the field. So he kind of is the leader of that defensive unit, maybe not in terms of like total play. Their best player on defense is going to be Justin Simmons, and he should be playing this week. But in terms of a guy that just flies all over the field, kind of a quiet guy that makes plays everywhere, Josie Jewell is going to be somebody you got to watch out for. Bradley Chubb finally looks like the first-round draft pick that he was, drafted to be. Like, he was expected to be the next great pass rusher. I think he was the first pass rusher drafted in his draft class, but injuries have derailed him. He sat in the shadow of Von Miller for all this time. And then finally, he's already got 5.5 sacks through 5 games. He's on track to get 17, 18. That's an outstanding season by any pass rusher. So he finally looks like the guy that they drafted him to be. And I think that he's in a contract year. So it's a big, big difference. And then the last defensive player you have to talk about, Patrick Surtain, is CB1 in the NFL right now. There is no cornerback playing quite as well as this guy. I'll let you go ahead and talk a little bit about him because I know you really like Patrick Surtain going out the draft process. But I just think that he is probably their best player on defense when Justin Simmons isn't, the leader of that group.
No, I love Pat Surtain coming out. Just a phenomenal player, a phenomenal competitor, and really a one of the few bright spots for this Broncos team. Somebody who I'm really not even testing this game because there's no need. You have so many other mismatches across the board. You kind of have to go at him every once in a while just to keep him honest. But there's really no need. He's earned my respect as a young player, kind of developing himself, establishing himself. He's phenomenal. Now, yeah, he's a really good player. There's not much else I could say besides that.
Yeah, he is. He's outstanding, and I think that we really have to have Keenan Allen back because
I can't wait for that.
You really do not want Mike Williams and Patrick Surtain because it's going to take Mike Williams completely out the game plan. Mike Williams is not a player who plays in the slot very often, and Patrick Surtain is going to be playing outside, and he's going to be lined up one-on-one because he is their best coverage corner, without a doubt. And you already know Mike Williams is the Chargers' favorite target with Keenan Allen out of the game. So I think you really, really need Keenan Allen because you need somebody that can draw the defense in, force teams to kind of play in the intermediate part of the field, the short to intermediate, and that'll open up things for Mike Williams. Otherwise, Mike Williams is not going to have a good game by any stretch of the imagination.
No, it's a really bad matchup for Mike Will because Pat is so sticky in coverage, very, very strict in his discipline. So he's very hard to create separation against him, which Mike Williams doesn't do very well anyway. So he as DBs go, he's one of the best in contested catch situations. A really bad matchup across the board for a guy like Mike Williams. Now, if you can get a guy like Keenan back, I know he's been banged up, but just the guy with Keenan's wiggle, I think would be a much more beneficial matchup for the Chargers than just Pat on Mike Will all day. Because there's also, what would be the other guy you would pay attention to on that offense?
Ronald Darby on the other side, and that's also not a great matchup for Josh Palmer. And by the way, Josh Palmer is a little banged up.
Yeah.
This defense is really, really good. Like, you should not sleep on their defense. There's a reason why they've only allowed 80 points in 5 games. Like, that is tied for 4th lowest. This defense has their stuff together. And there really isn't a whole lot to take advantage of against this defense because they're good at every level. Their defensive line, they do not give up rushing yards. In the passing game, they play really sticky coverage. To give you an idea, Ronald Darby is allowing a reception on 50% of targets heading his way. And then you've got Patrick Surtain allowing 61%. He's been targeted 31 times, giving up 19 receptions. Between the both of them over 5 games, neither of them giving up over 150 yards total combined over 5 games. That's insane. And then you've got Kareem Jackson at safety. Kareem Jackson has been targeted 7 times, 4 receptions for 36 yards. So everything underneath. Teams are not able to pass against the Broncos, and they haven't even had their best player on defense playing for the last few weeks. PJ Locke has been their starting safety, and he's playing outstanding, like really, really well in place of what's their safety's name? I keep losing track of names.
Simmons.
Yeah, Simmons.
Justin Simmons. I had to go look it up because I thought he went down, but Darby tore his ACL on last Thursday, and just officially hit
that
IR
actually really works in their favor. That's
Monday.
Huge. That means it's Darius Phillips or Damari Mathis starting at corner.
And so
that is huge.
The depth chart I'm looking at has Mathis slated and Darby.
Yeah,
spot.
so Ronald Darby is out. Michael Olmudier is on IR. Randy Gregory is on IR.
Yeah.
Justin
They're
Simmons
Tim
just came back
Patrick.
from AR. And they're still, with all of these injured players, one of the best defenses in the NFL. Could you imagine them at full strength?
Well, do we think? I mean, do you think the defense is that good, or do you think it's a product of teams are they're only scoring 16 points a game? You don't really necessarily need to score much more than 20 to be in a competitive game with the Broncos. So do you think they are actually legit, or do you think it's kind of a product of the guys get up heavy and then kind of just have to ease through the third, fourth quarter?
Some of it might be their schedule, but I still think that the Broncos have a really talented team overall, right? But you go ahead and look at the Seahawks. The Seahawks are on fire right now. This is their week 1 matchup. They lost 16-17, but the Seahawks have been like one of the best teams in the NFL through the first quarter of the season. Houston Texans, okay, I get it. I understand why, they held the Texans to 9 points. That makes sense to me. The 49ers are a really good team. Maybe going through a little bit of an identity change because you thought that your quarterback was going to be Trey Lance, and then it ends up being Jimmy Garoppolo. But Jimmy Garoppolo is an outstanding quarterback. I still think that he's at worst top 15. At best, he's probably on the fringe of top 10. I understand why they went with Trey Lance. We don't really have to get into that, but I still think in terms of who Jimmy Garoppolo is to that team, I see that team scoring more than 10 points against every other NFL team, and the Broncos kept them down to 11 points. The Raiders scored 32 points against them. That's something you got to take a look at. But the Raiders have the best wide receiver in the NFL, and they're putting up points regardless of how bad the team actually is in actuality. And then they keep the Colts run game to nothing.
That was
the Colts
so
scored
frustrating.
12 points. So there's a few games in there where it's okay, the Texans are gimmies, but then the Colts are in a disarray right now. But then they hold the 49ers and the Seahawks and the Raiders. I mean, they didn't really even hold the Raiders. Raiders scored points. I still think that they are playing enough quality teams where you can make the judgment case that they're a good defense.
I was kind of just asking just to get your thoughts, because I agree. Because holding 4 NFL teams under 20 points, that's a win. That's a really good defense. So I agree.
You're really good to do that in an entire season.
Right. And out of 5 games, no, I think the defense is there. I mean, let's see, what are they giving up a game? I think they give up 17 points a game and score about 16. So that's kind of explains their record. Let me pull it up.
I think I'm more interested to see how many yards they're giving up through the air and on the ground.
I got that too.
Because I feel are you bending but not breaking, or are you just not bending at all? Because if you're not bending at all, that's outstanding.
So,
and I don't know. I feel like they should be one of the best defenses in the NFL because they have some of the best talent on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL.
So it looks like as a whole, they are scoring 15 points a game, allowing 16. Allowing 316 total yards of offense per game. Pretty good. 204 through the air, 112 on the ground. So that's how that breaks down.
204 through the air is outstanding. If they're only
phenomenal,
giving up just about 200 yards through the air, I mean, quarterbacks are just averaging 250, 300 a game. That is really, really good if you're keeping anybody even close to the hundreds.
Yeah.
So they're good. They're a good defensive team.
They are good. Taking a look at just the numbers, taking a look at they are a good team. And I feel like if we're gonna look at that, Oh, no. Yeah, 204 grams. That to me is the matchup. How we need another MVP style game from Justin Herbert. We need more than 204 yards through the air, or this game's going to be a grinded out game, and I do not want to keep these guys in it for longer than a quarter.
That's fair. Give me your score prediction.
I'm going 30-10. A lot of fun to be had, and I'm about to delete at least 4 beers.
I mean, just taking a look at it, you look at the Colts only allowed them to have 9 points, and the 49ers allowed them to have 10. I like that number 10. I think the defense is a little bit better. I'll probably say like 24-10.
I'm saying 30 just because I'm petty, and the Raiders put up 32. So if they can do it,
No, let me actually take that back. I'm gonna say 9 because I say they kick 3 field goals and they're not able to get in the end zone.
I love that. I'll take that. Anything lower than 14 points is where I'm going to be upset with the defense if they surrender more than 14 points.
That's fair. All right, so I think that we have that all figured out. So I think that we are going to just steamroll the Broncos as we should, because offensively they're a complete disarray. Defensively, I think the only reason they're good is they got enough leadership on that side of the ball to kind of power through some of those issues. But if the Broncos are not able to flip field position and put the Broncos defense in a good position, by the end of this season, this defense is not going to look nearly as good as they are today. Any closing remarks, Zach?
Just that shout out to the Padres from moving on to the next round.
That is huge. They're playing right now, as a matter of fact. So I need to go and put that game on.
Okay, well, I won't give you any spoiler alerts, because if you've noticed where that my eyes have been off screen most of this episode, that's where they have been going to. But really excited for this weekend. Thank you for inviting me out there. Thanks for Tim for joining us earlier, and thanks to all our listeners for tuning in.
Thank you guys so much. We'll talk to you guys later.